Hi, I'm Stella Soleil, and I am back. This is my documentary, An Almost Pop Star. This is part two of the documentary. Things start to get a little darker in part two. This is episode 52. So I had been talking about my first record on Universal and how it got shelved and it failed, and then I was sent back to London to do my pop record. Before I get into all of that, I feel like I need to back up a little bit and talk about my father and his role in all of this was significant. So when I first got my record deal, it was for $400,000, and I was inexperienced, and I had heard stories of business managers taking their clients' money and then going to like some island somewhere and stealing millions and millions of dollars of their artist's money and just stealing it, and they have the capability of doing that. So I was really scared to work with a stranger. I did need a business manager, and so my father is the person that I most trusted, I think, in my life. We had a very strong relationship. He was very strict with me growing up, very strict Greek father, but he was extremely supportive of what I wanted to do. He went to every single basketball. I played basketball for like 8 years, and he went to every single basketball game. And then when I became a competitive dancer, he was at pretty much every competition, traveling around, watching me compete. And we had such a special bond, my dad and I. I mean, I remember my basketball coaches would get mad at me because I would not listen to the coaches. I would look over at my dad, and my dad would be coaching me from the sidelines and telling me what to do and with his hand signals, and I would just know that meant drive to the basket. That meant pass to Karen, pass to the forward, do a full court press, or I was always point guard. So anyway, we were close. We were very close. So when I got these huge checks, the first installment was his $200,000 check. I had my dad become my business manager against so many people's advice. I mean, so many people told me this was a huge mistake. Don't do this. And I was mad. I was like, this is my father you're talking about, I don't trust anybody like I trust my dad. So he became my business manager. And this was really important because I was going to be going, to London. I was going to be out of the country, so I needed somebody to pay my bills. I had bought a condo. I did take $135,000 cash and put it into my condo, and I only had a $40,000 mortgage. So the whole thing was almost completely paid off. I just had this small mortgage that my cousin's husband found me a bank to give me a mortgage. His friend was the banker, and so I had this very small mortgage, and I felt good about putting this large sum of money into the condo because I felt like it was kind of my nest egg, like no matter what, I would have this money wrapped up in real estate. And my dad took me to a tax attorney. This is where things started getting kind of weird. This tax attorney I went to there was confusion. Like, my attorney wanted me to become an S corp, an S corporation. This tax attorney that my dad took me to wanted me to become a C corporation. I still don't understand the difference between an S corp and a C corp, but all I know is that um, my father, my entertainment lawyer in LA, and this tax attorney got on a conference call, and with me, the tax attorney seemed to win this battle, and I became a C corp. And and the money that was cut to me was being cut to my record company, my fake record company, which is now a real record company called Catharsis Records. So this tax attorney convinced me to give my father power of attorney. I didn't know what power of attorney was. I thought it just meant that he had um, my permission to pay my mortgage, to pay my utility bills, to pay, bandmates, whatever. Like, it just gave him permission to do that. I didn't actually know that he could pretty much do anything he wanted with all of my money when he had power of attorney. I did give him power of attorney, and I went to London, and one day I get this phone call from my cousin saying, Stella, your condo is about to go into foreclosure. And I was like, what? And she's like, you need to call the bank right away. At that point, there were renters in my condo. My dad was collecting the money and supposed to be paying my mortgage on top of handling the money that I thought I had in the bank. In the meantime, I had done a publishing deal with Warner Chappell Publishing, and that was for another $350,000. And so I thought I had a lot of money, and um, and also I had renters in my condo, so I thought that my mortgage was completely covered, and so when I found out that my condo was going into foreclosure, I was completely confused, and I had realized that my dad had been taking the rent money and pocketing it, not paying the mortgage, and just collecting and not paying the mortgage. So I was incredibly upset. And, I called my father and I said, I know what you're doing. I know what you're doing. I know you took that money and you did not pay the mortgage. And it was really weird because instead of, like, I don't know, I thought he was going to give me some kind of excuse or something. He laughed and he said, whatever, you owe me anyway. And I was just like, what are you talking about? Like, I just couldn't fathom this, and so then I found out, my dad then proceeded to also tell me that I had no money left, that I had spent all my money, and which was impossible because I was out of the country and I didn't spend anything. And the only big purchase I ever made was my condominium. And so how could the money be gone? It was like $750,000, um, and then it just, I realized that that my dad actually he took it, and Okay, so you're probably freaking out at this point. I'm telling you that my father took my money. Um, it does turn out surprisingly well, so I can tell you that right now. But um, he he did actually try to convince me that I never did a deal with Warner Chappell and I never got paid that $350,000 and kind of gaslighting me. And but I knew because I knew, my manager had gotten paid his 20% from that deal, and my lawyer made his 5% off of that deal, who negotiated that deal. So I know the deal went down, and I know that I had gotten paid, and but there was just no money in the bank, and my house was getting foreclosed on. So I had to go to Universal and ask them for 6 months of my mortgage, or they were going to foreclose on my house, on my condo. And so they gave me $6,000, but said that I had to fire my dad. And it was, it was so incredibly painful, this whole situation. Not just knowing that my dad had betrayed me like this, but also that now I had to fire my dad. That Universal wasn't going to cover what I need to be covered unless, I mean, they also knew what my dad had done, and it was just, it was really humiliating. And so I talked to my dad and I said, listen, Universal is gonna save my condo, but you can't work for me anymore. And he was completely devastated. And my family didn't believe me. My father had convinced, hush, hush, sorry. um, my father had convinced my family that I had just gone on spending sprees and spent all my money. And so they were really, kind of angry with me that I was saying that he took it. I didn't spend it, he took it. Um, oh my God. Yeah, so Universal bailed me out and saved my condominium, and I needed to sell it right away because I didn't even have money in the bank now to pay the mortgage, and I didn't trust anybody even to I didn't even trust anyone to collect it while I was out of the country from renters to pay the mortgage. So I was just going to sell it. So I sold it, and um, when the realtor gave me the check, it was only for the profit of the sale of the condo. And I said, where's the rest of the money? Where's the $135,000 that I put into this condo? I should have gotten that back. And the realtor was really confused. He's like, no, this is what you made off of the sale of your condo. And he's like, you need to call your bank, and if there's some kind of discrepancy. And then it hit me that the equity had been taken out of the condo too. So essentially, altogether, missing was approximately $500,000. Um, so here's the thing. Here's the thing. I could have really let this destroy me, this betrayal. I could have been enraged. I could have cut off all contact with my father for the rest of my life. I could have gotten sick. Maybe I could have gotten cancer. I mean, this kind of stress, that kind of stress, I really firmly believe like can have serious health effects on your health. And I thought to myself, about forgiveness. The thing is that I realized about forgiveness, people think that when you forgive somebody, that you're letting them off the hook, especially if they're not even asking for forgiveness and you forgive them, that you're letting them off the hook. But really, you're letting yourself off the hook, because I didn't want to feel that, all of that anger and rage and betrayal and I didn't want to feel those things, and I had to go and record my second record. So I just decided just to let it go and to forgive him. And this was a huge thing. This was a huge test. This was probably the biggest test in my entire life, how to handle this with my father. And I learned these really important things about myself in this horrible thing that happened. One, that I had this incredible capacity for unconditional love, that I could love a person even if they hurt me so bad, that I could still love my father. And that's a big deal. I mean, that's like, it's kind of rare to find people that can unconditionally love somebody like that. And also, it made me realize that I was completely unmotivated by money to begin with. I mean, I was an artist through and through. It was never about the money for me. I never even felt like I actually ever had it, like I never saw it, and it never like went through my fingers. I didn't really spend it. I spent some of it, but not hardly any of it. And I wasn't motivated by money. And so it wasn't as difficult to let it go as I thought it was going to be. My family watched me do this. They still didn't believe me. They still thought that I just went through my money. But my dad and I had, for the last 10 years of his life, because I had forgiven him, we never spoke about it. He never admitted it to me. Well, he kind of did on his deathbed, but we had this amazing relationship for like the last 10 years of his life, because I did this, because I was capable of this kind of forgiveness. And, he did atone. I mean, he really tried. He was broke. And also, that's the other thing I want to say about this, is that I felt like, half of this was my fault, because I knew that my father was in financial ruins. When I asked him to manage my money, he was financially ruined at that point in his own life. And it's kind of like, putting crack in a drug addict's hand and saying, hey, can you hang on to my crack for me? Like, that was so stupid. What a stupid thing I did. Like, to even put him in that position, to manage all this money when he was just ruined financially. So I take responsibility too, for having put him there, for having done that. I should have gotten a regular business manager. And my advice to anyone that's watching this right now, don't ever get your family involved with money, with your money. Don't do it. It's like, it's just, the saying that money corrupts. I have found that to be so true. It's so true. And you never want to put yourself in that position with your family. Don't ever get involved with your family and money. Don't cross those together, ever. Take it from me. It's the worst thing you could possibly do. But, so for the next 10 years, my dad, I was really broke at that time. And I mean, I don't even know how, sometimes he would scrape up like $100 here or $200 there. I mean, when I was really in dire straits and like starving, he would somehow come up with money somehow and send it to me. And every show that I did, it didn't matter if it was 7 or 10 hours away, he would drive and he would come and see me. And, my dad and I, in those last 10 years, had the best relationship. And it's only because I think I was able to forgive him, And when he was dying, when he was on his deathbed, he was in the hospital for 3 weeks. I didn't want him to have this weighing on him in death. And I wanted him to have a good death. So I was there with him every day from 10 o'clock in the morning to 10 o'clock at night. And a lot of times I would just sleep there with him in the hospital. When he was dying, he had cancer. And I was just waiting, waiting for him to bring this up to me. And at one point, he said, well, the first thing he said was, I think God is punishing me because of all the stories that I told. And I said, no, Dad, you're not getting punished. You're not getting punished for the things that you did wrong in your life. You got cancer. It's just, cancer happens. It happens to a lot of people. You just got cancer. You're not being punished, okay? And then the second thing that he said to me, finally, he said, I really just thought you were going to make more money. And that was as close to an apology or an admission that I was going to get. I didn't even need it. I knew what happened. I forgave him. I let it go. We had a great relationship in the end. And but that was his admission, finally. I really did think you were going to make more money. I'm happy with the decision that I made to forgive my father and to have a really great relationship with him up until he died. And because it really does say something about the kind of person that I am. And actually, my husband said that this was like one of the biggest things that kind of blew him away and why he wanted to marry me, because that he never met anybody that could do something like that could forgive that kind of betrayal, that he didn't think that he could even do something like that he didn't know anybody that could do that, and that, it's a big reason why he wanted to marry me. So there were good things that came out of it. It wasn't as awful as it sounds, it wasn't as terrible as it sounds. And I am happy that I helped my father in his last days to have a peaceful death. Yeah, so that was the biggest, most difficult test of my life. Yeah.